Good day, everyone. Okay, I didn't plan to come back. I just remember that tomorrow is Sunday and I wouldn't be doing a live video tomorrow concerning on this series. So I just decided to rush and do the sixth one. The reasons why your children find it difficult to learn, part 6. The reasons why your children find it difficult to learn, part 6. I still remain my humble self, Mrs. Unachukwu Akujobisi. Shalom. I want to say this. If you have not been going through my series, please go back to my walls and then you find out where we are coming from. This is just the part 6. I'm an administrator, I'm a teacher, and I'm a mother of 2. I've been giving out reasons why children find it difficult to learn. I grouped them in 10 P's, and I'm in number 6 today. And this one, I'm not really going to go deep into it because it's a very broad one. It can take us months if we want to talk about them. But I'm just going to, I'm here to make some parents to be aware of it, because some people are not aware of it. And what is it? Problem. There are problems called learning disabilities. There are problems that make children to find it difficult to learn. These problems are called learning disabilities. Learning disabilities. What are learning disabilities? It's a very straightforward one. These are genetic issues, neurological issues, issues that happen to kids that are genetic, those problems that are genetic, that happens to children that can cause them not to be able to learn as fast as possible. They are very big problems because some children, even if you put in patience, you put in persistence, you put in play method, you put in being real and being practical, they will still find it difficult to learn because they have this problem, they have this issue, and that's what we call learning disabilities. I'm going to be talking about some of them. I'm not really going to be talking about all the learning disabilities we have. I'm going to be talking about the key ones. I remember, like I said, I am not saying this. I'm not delving much into it because it's very broad. I'm just going to be make you aware of it so that you can go and research more and find out if your child is having any of these or symptoms of this. You go and find out what really is the problem and then how to help the child. Unfortunately, some of these things cannot be cured, but they can be managed. They cannot be cured, they can be managed. And one of the learning disability, let me say this before I continue. Learning disability are not learning problems. There's what we call learning disability, and there are ones we call learning problems. They are not learning problems. Learning problems are those ones that has to do with the ability of the child not to be able to see, not to hear properly, not to, as in with deformity. Let's say the child is handicapped or emotionally disturbed. No, these ones are not the one I'm talking about today. I'm talking about learning disabilities that have nothing to do with learning problems. It's not that the child is blind or the child is handicapped or the child is emotionally distressed. No, some parents don't know about this. Most teachers too don't know about it, but some do. If you know that your child is having a learning disability, it will help you to understand that child and know how to help the child. When I'm done teaching today, go and research more about these things. I'm just trying to make you aware, to be aware of this. Learning disability, they are genetic, they are neurological, they are genetic. It is not the fault of the child. It is not because you are not putting persistence, you're not being persistent. It's not because you're not putting energy. It's not because you're not doing your best. It's not because you're not being hardworking. No, these things are just there and they cannot be cured. Some of them can be, most of them can just be managed. It's just for you to understand your child. One is dyscalculia. Dyscalculia, from the word calculation, dyscalculia, the one we call dyscalculia. This one, if a child has this learning disability, the child will find it difficult to calculate. Anything that has to do with mental math, that has to do with calculation, the child will be struggling with it. No matter how you try, you need to try and try before the child can understand it. And that's why you see that some children, you say, my child is not good in maths, or my child is just better in English or languages. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, might be suffering from this dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is a learning issue, is a learning disability. They cannot be able to calculate or add, or anything that has to do with calculation, then they find it difficult. It's a genetic problem, it's a neurological problem. It is not their fault. So you need to go back and research, and then you will see how to help this child, the ways to help this child. Like I said, I'm not delving into it like properly. Now, having talked about this dyscalculia, which is an ability not to be good with calculation. Some people are just like that. Then the second one is dyslexia, or dyslexia, what we call dyslexia. Some people don't know this. Let me spell dyslexia. dyslexia. Dyslexia is one of the problems, is one of the learning disabilities kids have. Dyslexia. This one has to do with anything that has to do with reading, languages. They cannot read. They cannot find it easy to read. Some of them, you expect them to read at a particular age. Yes, they cannot. Some of them even in their upper primaries, and they're finding it difficult to learn. Is a learning disability. It has nothing to do with the amount of pressure, the amount of hard work you're putting in, or the amount of patience you're putting in as a parent, as a teacher. It's just there. It's genetic. Okay, it's genetic. It's inborn. They are finding it difficult to do what? Anything that has to do with language, that has to do with reading, they find it difficult. It's not their fault. If you understand this, then you can be able to know how to handle these children. And I said it's dyslexia. Dyslexia is a learning problem, learning disability. And I go on to another one that is called dysgraphia. This one is just talking about handwriting. You see some kids, I don't know how to put it, they lack these fine motor skills. They cannot write very well. It's not their fault. It's genetic. It's inborn. Dysgraphia. Let me spell dysgraphia. Dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is another problem that children have. They find it difficult to write well. You have tried your best. It's just there. It's genetic. Go and research about these things and then learn how to help these children. The next one is just a non-verbal learning disability. That one is they find it difficult to communicate, to understand you when you use non-verbal method of passing information. They find it difficult. They cannot understand the non-verbal way of passing information. They can, when you make signs and then you don't say things, when you make signs, they find it difficult to understand you. It's also a learning disability. And another one is dysprasia. These things, I am just pronouncing them the way I understand, but I'm just going to spell it so that you can go and research more. dyspraxia. dyspraxia. Okay. This one is thank you very much, Shinedu. Thank you. You say you like this topic. This is the one you like. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to some people don't know about these things, and they try to it's frustrating. They will think the problem is coming from the children. They've tried their best. Even they might even think that the problem is coming from the teacher. Why I'm saying these things is because, in as much as I ask you to put in patience, I ask you to persevere, I ask you to use play method, I ask you to be practical, and I ask you to pray for these children, there are still other problems. That's why I say there are a lot of them. It depends on the one your child is facing. There are still other problems, and I'm mentioning them one after the other. I'm still going to go back. I've mentioned some. I'm still going to go back. But let me continue. I am in this dyspraxia. This one is a disorder which affects movement and coordination, language and speech. It affects the body movement, the ability for them to coordinate, and then they have issues with their language and speech. All I'm doing here is to make you aware of these things so that you will know that your child might be suffering from a learning disability. Go and study it. Go and Google, right? Learning disability. They will bring a lot of them out for you, and then you read up and then find out the one your child is suffering, and then find out ways to help the child. Now, there is one I'm going to mention. This one has nothing to do, it's not a learning disability per se. We don't call it a learning disability, but it's also a major one, that a major thing that makes children to find it difficult to learn. It's a short form ADHD. ADHD, attention hyperactivity disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder is a problem. This one, any child that have this problem finds it difficult to pay attention, to sit down one place. They are always distracted. They are impatient. They are impulsive. They find it difficult to sit down one place and learn. They are hyperactive. Most children face this, even adults. It starts when you are a child. You start seeing the symptoms when you are a child, and then they grow with it. ADHD. Most parents are not aware of this. If your child is suffering from this, you will be blaming the teacher. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You'll be blaming the teacher. You will think that the teacher is not doing well. You think that the child is not like others, but this is a problem. You need to find out that the child has this problem, and then you find out ways to help the child. It's called ADHD. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. You find out the way to help the child. You find out there are some kids in the classroom, they cannot sit down one place for 10 minutes and listen to you. Their body will be doing them somehow. They want to stand up, they want to trolonia, they want to play. They are just like that. They are disorganized, they are hyperactive. Even if you try to calm them down, they cannot calm down. I'm not saying they are the ones that have mental issues, all those bigger mental issues. No, these children are normal. They are seen as normal kids, but they cannot find it easy to. They cannot sit in a place. Some of you will attest to this. I have met many pupils suffer from this. There are different types of this ADHD. Go and research. You will understand what I'm saying. Many children suffer from this. This ADHD, they are hyperactive. They cannot sit down in one place and learn. It's a problem. And if a child cannot sit down in a place and learn, the child will not be able to understand, because it needs a child to sit down and then listen to the teacher, understand the teacher, process the information, and then give it back to you. But if a child cannot sit down for a while and learn, you see? So these things are the reasons why children find it difficult to learn. There are reasons why children find it difficult to learn. And I'm saying again, if you want to, I said there are lots of reasons why children find it difficult to learn. I grouped them in 10 P's. I have been going through a series. Go to my wall and then start taking them one after the other. Today we are dealing on problems called learning disability. And initially I said, let me go back again. I said that learning disability are not learning problems. They are different. You don't call them problems per se. In education, we don't call them problems. Learning problems are those ones that have to do with the ability. Maybe the child cannot see, the child is blind, the child cannot hear properly, the child is deformity, the child is disabled. Those ones are learning problems. But this one I'm talking about is called learning disability. You can go and Google, or you can go and research. Thank you. Who is there? Thank you for joining me. Learning disability. Share this thing now. Share this video, because some people are not aware of these things. Some parents are not even aware. Some teachers are not even aware of these things. This learning disability is a very big problem. Some children, so it's genetic, it's neurological, it's genetic, is in the gene. And something that is in the gene, some of them, most of them, in fact, they don't have cure. You have to try. It will be frustrating. You'll be doing all your best. You have tried everything to make this child learn, and this child is not learning in that direction. And they have different types. I'm just going to talk about the basics. I said we have one that is dyscalculia. The child can not find it easy to calculate anything that is mental mass, anything that is mental, that is has calculation, anything that is about calculation, the child finds it difficult. Give the child English languages, the child will do well. But when it has to do with calculation, the child finds it difficult to, comprehend. Is a disability. There are also ways to manage these things, and then you will help the child. All you need to do as a parent, go and research. When you find out that your child is going through this, or as a teacher you find out that your pupil is passing through this, all you need to do is to re-strategize. You find a different way to teach that child. There are methods online that you can use to help the child to learn. There are ways you can, there are ways you can manage this thing. But not finding out the problem is already a big problem. When you must have found out the problem, then you've already solved it. It's half solved. Problem that you found out is half solved. So you just have to know, as I'm teaching, think, is there any of your pupil or any of your child that is, finding it difficult to calculate? I'm not saying that some people, let me make you understand this. When you find it difficult to calculate, maybe because the teacher did not teach it well, this is not a learning disability. But when a teacher, I'm talking about the one that when a teacher teaches it well, when a teacher explains it well, when a teacher breaks it down, the teacher does everything possible, the child still find it difficult to learn. That's the problem, dyscalculia. The child is suffering from dyscalculia. Then another one is dyslexia or dyslexia. Some people call it dyslexia. Dyslexia, dyslexia, dyslexia. Dyslexia is an issue. It has to do with the child's it has to do with languages. The child finds it difficult to read, to spell correctly. The child finds it difficult to read, to spell correctly. If you give the child calculation, this kind of children, when you give them mathematics, they will do it very well. But when you tell them to read, some of them cannot even find it. They have this reading problem. They cannot even spell correctly. They are grown or they are big, but when you ask them to spell some things, they cannot spell. They find it so difficult to spell. It's a genetic problem. It's a neurological problem. It is not their fault. So you just have to find out what the child is suffering and ways to help them. There are methods to teach children suffering from this type of disability. Depending on the type, then there are ways to manage them, and then you find out and then help the child as a teacher and as a parent. I also talked about dysgraphia, dysgraphia, dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is also a learning disability. The child cannot be able to write properly. The handwriting is usually not good. In fact, you've tried your best. Handwriting here will never be good. The child is not. The child lacks fine motor skills. What we call in teaching, we call it fine motor skills. The child might be suffering from dysgraphia. So find out the one the child is passing through, the child is suffering from, and help the child. Another one is non-verbal learning disabilities. Non-verbal learning disabilities. Then the last one is dysgraphia. Okay, sorry for that. Dysgraphia. This one is a disorder. Body movement. It has to be body coordination, language coordination, and speech. These things can make children not to learn effectively in a classroom. And the last one I talked about, that the one that is not a learning disability. Sorry for that, please. The one that is not this one is not a learning disability. It's just its own kind of problem. It's ADHD. We don't call it a learning disability. ADHD. Research about it. No matter how you try to teach a child, no matter how you try to sit them down, make them sit down in one particular place and listen to you, they find it difficult. They are hyperactive. Children that are hyperactive, they are impulsive, they are impatient. This is what they are passing through. So I'm going to be calling it a day now. Like I said, I'm not here to dive into it and then explain more. I just want to make it short. I am just here to make you to be aware of them so that you can go and research. When you research, you will see a lot of it, a lot of them. Then you now find out the one your pupil or your child is passing through. So just keep sharing this. Share this. So many parents, they are not aware of this learning disabilities, share this video so that they can be aware, just like you are. Comment and like. Comment and like. Remember, comment and like. And then if you see this in my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe. Go to my YouTube channel, C, capital letter C, you leave a space and then Shalom, C Shalom. Search and then subscribe, please, so that you can be able to listen to all my teachings. Don't forget, I'll be coming back live on Monday, and then I'll be talking about some other learning disabilities. God bless us all. Thank you for joining me.